Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole, King DL, Lauren Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. So lately I have been looking on Twitter at Twitter accounts that cover Nintendo content, like random ones that seem to talk about nothing but upcoming Nintendo games, both good and bad. And one of the things I've noticed is just how desperate trolls are getting when it comes to trying to downplay the Nintendo Switch. Like, oh man, things aren't coming out this year. Bro. I'm buying like 3 or 4 games this month, okay? I am hyped for April. This is a very strong year for Nintendo Switch. I am over the moon about everything we've gotten this year. Seeing people legitimately say that the Switch has no upcoming games in a year where we got Legends Arceus, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Triangle Strategy, and countless other upcoming titles is laughable to me. So much so that I haven't even addressed it. However, a lot of pro-Nintendo channels are responding to these allegations and are pointing things out. And the thing that really annoys me about this is the games they choose to talk about. Specifically, Bayonetta 3. Now, from what I recall, Bayonetta 3 has no set release date. We don't know if it's coming out in 2022. And so it seems kind of weird to point to that specific title as an example of upcoming Switch games that you are excited for. Metroid Prime 4 as well. Breath of the Wild 2, I think, also falls under this metric. Like, we had no real solid confirmation that these games were coming out in this time frame. And what I think is happening is that these channels are desperate to act as if Nintendo has mature AAA games coming to their platform instead of talking about the games that are actually coming out in that time frame. Stuff like Splatoon 3, stuff like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, stuff like Pokemon Violet and Scarlet, big, huge games that are coming out in 2022. But oh no, we can't talk about those because they're too kiddie. We gotta talk about, cool, mature games. Even if those games are complete trash from companies that haven't been good in years, like Bayonetta 3 or Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It feels as if a lot of the discussion around Nintendo games is coming from people who don't actually have respect for these IPs, who don't actually like these games, who don't actually enjoy them. Because I feel like Xenoblade's entire legacy revolves around this idea that, oh man, they're big, huge RPGs, unlike those games that Nintendo makes, in spite of the fact that Xenoblade isn't very good. Like Bayonetta, oh man, it's a cool action game franchise with a female lead, even though Bayonetta 2 was completely awful. Nobody ever talks about that. Nobody ever brings up that Bayonetta 2 was nowhere near as good as 1. It was a huge step down in quality. And Bayonetta 3 looks like it's going down the same route. People aren't being critical enough of certain Nintendo games because they're coming from certain developers that have a history of putting out mature games for mature gamers. It is laughable. I think, if anything, people should be more critical of the way Bayonetta 3 was handled. I think people should be more critical of Xenoblade. I think people should be more critical of the Warriors games, right? There are endless examples of just companies just being lazy with their games on Switch. And I don't see enough people really talking about that. HAL Laboratories, they just put out the best game one of the best games of the year, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and I feel like a lot of these people aren't really talking about that game enough. It is absolutely worth talking about. One of the best Kirby games I've ever played, probably my new favorite, and I think this game is getting shafted in favor of Bayonetta 3, a game that's going to be inferior, I think it's safe to say at this point. There is no possible way that Bayonetta 3 matches up to Kirby, I think. Nothing I've seen from Bayonetta 3 looks like it's going to be even worth playing, to be completely honest with you. And yet, somehow it's one of the biggest upcoming Switch games? No, I don't think so. Nintendo fans need to acknowledge that all of the best games, all of them, are intended for a younger demographic. Like, mature games for mature gamers are doomed to failure. They are doomed to be style over substance. They are more reliant on brand name than actual quality. They weaponize fanboy autism to promote games that don't even look all that great. Like, I've seen this with Xenoblade. I've seen this with Bayonetta. I've seen this with, I suppose, even Fire Emblem Warriors. Like, there are a lot of upcoming Switch games that I'm not happy about, and I don't see a lot of people talking about them.